A new pope has risen. The white smoke has lifted above St. Peter's Basilica. The crowd in Vatican Square held its breath, and then the name was spoken. Pope Leo XIV. A new chapter has quietly begun in the heart of the Catholic Church, and though the ceremonies are familiar, there is something about this moment that feels different. Not louder, not more dramatic, just heavier, not in fear, but in meaning. The world is watching, as it always does when a new pontiff takes his place on the balcony. But this time some eyes are looking with a deeper kind of awareness. Could this be a turning point? Could this be the man spoken of in symbolic prophecies, possibly the one linked to the mystery of Revelation 17? Pope Leo XIV is not the most talked about cardinal. He was not at the center of political movements in the Church. He did not dominate headlines with controversies or power plays. Instead, he arrived in silence. Known for his calm and his quiet service, he did not rise to the papacy on a wave of applause, but through something slower and more thoughtful. Many believe his election marks a spiritual shift rather than just a structural one. And while people debate politics, power, and influence, there is another question beginning to take shape. Could this humble figure be part of a much larger pattern, one that has been whispered about in churches, books, and conversations for centuries? When we look at Revelation 17, we are met with a vision that is layered with mystery. The chapter speaks of a woman sitting on a beast, full of names of blasphemy. It talks about kings, about horns, about a city that rules over the kings of the earth. Over time, scholars, believers, and seekers have tried to interpret these signs. Some have linked the imagery to ancient Rome. Others have pointed fingers at different moments in church history. But not all interpretations are meant to predict. Some are meant to warn, to remind, to prepare the heart, not the calendar. And yet, when a new pope is elected, especially one with such a symbolic name as Leo, named after the great Pope, Leo XIV, also known as Leo the Great, questions rise once again. What does this mean for the Church? What does it mean for the world? There is something about the number 14 too. Biblically, the number 14 often connects to generations, to transitions, to completeness before a new beginning. And now Leo XIV steps into history at a time when the world feels more divided, more distracted, and more spiritually thirsty than ever. In the midst of wars, political confusion, moral crises, and deep questioning, a new pope stands on the balcony, not shouting, not demanding attention, but inviting something quieter, something sacred. Is this the kind of leadership Revelation warned us about, or is it the kind the Church desperately needs right now? To be clear, Revelation 17 has been used in many different ways across time. Some read it as a prophecy against the Church. Others see it as a metaphor for corrupt systems, political or religious, that turn from truth to self-interest. Some say the woman on the beast represents false religion. Others say it's a symbol of a compromised church. But what everyone agrees on is that the passage is meant to call the faithful into deeper reflection. Not to panic, not to accuse, but to discern. And this moment with Pope Leo XIV feels like it calls for discernment, because while everything on the surface seems calm, smiles, blessings, prayers, hymns, there is a deeper current moving. A sense that something is shifting, but not in a way we can fully explain. That's how spiritual moments often happen. Not with explosions, but with gentle changes in tone, in spirit, in focus. Pope Leo is not known for chasing attention. He has always been the kind of man who listens more than he speaks, who enters conversations with kindness rather than confrontation. He worked for years in global dialogue. He visited places of pain, conflict, and division, not to take sides, but to bring presence. And yet it is precisely men like this who surprise us, because their strength is not in their loudness, but in their stillness. And stillness has power. It makes people uncomfortable. It makes people think. It invites truth. And truth always shakes things, whether it's welcome or not. So what is the Church stepping into now? Is this simply another season of renewal, or is this a time of reckoning? Some voices in the background whisper that this election could align with a prophetic timeline. That the Church may be entering a phase where it must choose authenticity or appearance, faith or comfort, courage, or convenience. But here's the thing. Prophecies are not puzzles to solve. They are mirrors to reflect on. Revelation is not about decoding every symbol to name a villain. It is about seeing how power works, how truth can be twisted, how even sacred things can be used in unholy ways when hearts drift from their center. It warns us not just about leaders, but about systems, about movements that wear the robe of religion but carry the spirit of pride. In this sense, the question is not whether Pope Leo XIV is the one fulfilling Revelation 17, but whether we are the generation described in it. Whether our world and our churches have started to follow the beast of self-interest, of image, of political games disguised as faith, whether we are allowing the spirit of compromise to dress itself in tradition and go unnoticed. What makes this moment so powerful is not fear, but invitation. Pope Leo XIV's leadership may not be loud, but that may be the very thing that draws people in. In a noisy world, silence stands out. In a world addicted to control, humility disarms. And this man, chosen not for charm or charisma, but for spiritual clarity, may be calling the church back to what it was meant to be. Not an empire, not a brand, but a body. A living body. One that remembers, repents, renews. We often forget that the early church began in stillness too, in hidden rooms, in whispered prayers, in small acts of love that defied power. Maybe this is what's unfolding again. Not a fall, not a takeover, but a return to roots. And this return may come with tension, because not everyone is ready to let go of the pageantry. Not everyone wants to face the hard questions, especially when those questions come in robes and traditions they thought were safe. But history has shown that every time the church gets too comfortable, a shaking comes. Not to destroy it, but to clean it, to call it back. And the popes who truly shaped the church's future were not always the ones who fit the world's mold. They were the ones who obeyed God more than man, who stood firm in storms, who loved truth more than popularity. Pope Leo I, the first Leo, defended truth in a time of confusion. He faced down invaders. He guided the church through storms. Now Leo XIV carries that name, not just in title, but in spirit. He is not here to entertain or to play politics. He is here to listen, to guide, to invite the church to remember what it truly is. Still, we must stay awake, because the enemy of truth doesn't take vacations. Sometimes it wears a mask of light. Sometimes it operates inside sacred walls. Revelation 17 reminds us to look with spiritual eyes, not with suspicion, but with discernment, to ask, how is power being used? Are we bowing to Christ or to comfort? Are our leaders serving or performing? Pope Leo XIV's election comes at a time when many feel lost. Scandals have shaken trust. Divisions have split churches. Moral confusion has crept in slowly but deeply. And yet here stands a pope who speaks less, prays more, and moves with care. He is not flashy. He is not popular in the usual sense. But maybe that's exactly what the church needs right now. This may not be the age of crowds, but the age of conscience. And conscience is what Revelation has always stirred. It's not about naming a beast, but naming our brokenness. Not about pointing fingers at Rome or others, but looking at how each of us has contributed to the silence of truth. When the church becomes a stage, it loses its soul. When it becomes a shelter for comfort rather than courage, it begins to rot. And yet, with one simple election, a door has opened. A chance to begin again, a chance to ask the deeper questions, to look beyond banners and bells, and to examine the heart of the faith. What kind of church do we want to be? A museum of traditions or a movement of living grace? A hierarchy of titles or a family of faith? These are the questions Pope Leo XIV seems to carry with him, and they are not easy, but they are necessary. The world may keep moving, but moments like this are meant to make